Hi, my name is Patruni Chidananda Shastri. I'm a drag artist from Hyderabad, and I'm bringing to you this new show which is called as Drag Me to Heaven. Now, before we kind of jump into the show, I want to kind of give you a little bit debrief about why exactly I'm bringing you this particular conversations. As you understand, Drag Me to Heaven, which is basically about how we kind of see ourselves in heaven. Heaven is a very good place to start with. But heaven is also related to the idea of religion and faith. Now, every faith practice has a certain description of heaven. And here, what we are trying to understand is how drag can take you to the heaven of your own faith or belief. This is a podcast where I would be kind of going ahead and interviewing drag artists across the world, coming from multiple belief as well as religious systems. Somebody who practice faith on a mainstream level, some of them try to re-understand or realign with their choices of faith, and some of them don't believe in a certain faith ideology. The entire idea of how a person navigates with conflict within as well as outside the religion, how somebody finds gender affirmity or gender expressions affirmity and ally with the idea of religious and belief systems, and how one would use their own art form to reanalyze and create a more homogeneous way of understanding belief and practices which can help us in navigating a lot of issues as an artist. Now, my reason why I picked up deliberately drag artist is because drag has been there in India for centuries now, and it has also been a very strong tool to talk about multiple aspects of the society, where drag artists are somebody who impersonate or who create an idea of a gender and make gender as their canvas and talk about subjects which might be starting with mental health. It can be physical health, talking about sex positivity, talking about trans rights, and it can go on to a varied level of civic education and civil rights. Drag artists across the world have made a very key role in creating a liberation movement and also kind of addressing the idea of gender equality. However, today drag has been seen as a sin by majority of the mainstream religion and even used as a propaganda tool by politics to kind of go ahead and question the position of drag artists in the society. Last year, US has banned public performance of drag, citing that it's anti-religion, anti-idea of humanity, and also something which would not be safe for public visibility, especially when there is a child around us. However, in India, drag has been a very vocal way of seeing art, and this dichotomy of what exactly is art and where exactly it's limited and how it fits in with the idea of belief is something which I'm trying to explore in this particular podcast. With the analysis and the understanding of individual interviews, we're also trying to figure out what would be the best practice of aligning with their faith, as well as creating a safe space for every faith practicer to kind of come ahead and thrive in the art form of drag, and how drag can be used as a medium to not only go ahead and talk about LGBTQI plus issues, but also the wider range topic of how interfaith can play a far more better space for individuals to kind of go ahead and change a mindset in the society. So I hope this topic excites you, and I hope you would follow me in all my upcoming podcasts where I would be discussing some very vivid questions from drag artists across the world and learn how they ally with their faith. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe. I would be more than happy to kind of take feedback and understand what exactly might have been your perspective while you're listening to it via email address pcsas3@gmail.com. You can also kind of go ahead and follow my work at Instagram, that is SAS3 Dancing Feet. I would be chiming in all drag artists who are a part of the present series in individual episodes so that you can go and support them as well by following and sharing their content on social media. So I hope you will have a very good experience by being a part of this podcast. Thank you so much, and let's go ahead and kickstart. Hi everyone, my name is Patroni Shastri, and you are in the first episode of Drag Me to Heaven. This is a series where we kind of interact with drag artists across the world and understand their ideas of faith and how they can navigate through multiple ways of, seeking affirmity, both with their gender, with their drag practice, as well as their faith. So for this first episode, I have a very great, artist as well as a dear friend of mine, Zeesh, all the way from Bombay. Zeesh has been performing drag for a decade now, and somebody who has been a pioneer of Indian drag in the world. So, without any further ado, let me quickly go ahead and welcome Zeesh. Hi, Zeesh.
Hello, my love. It's such an honor to be with you, sit next to you, and have this beautiful conversation.
Great, thank you so much, Jeesh. So I will quickly go ahead and ask you a few questions. So this is a conversation which we wanted to understand about how we navigate faith as queer people and also queer artists. So my first question is, can you introduce yourself and share your belief or values of your faith?
Hi, my name is Zeesh, Zeeshan Ali, also known as the drag phenomena of India. I've been doing drag for a long time. I'm born and raised in a Muslim family, but I've lived a very mixed, in a very mixed religious space where faith were intermingling, and that's the background I do have. But it's also a very rigid Muslim family that I come from, but with over time, I think it's evolving as well. What was the other question?
Yeah, how do
So, in the initial time, I think when I came out as a queer person and realized my queer identity, I really ran away faith and religion because I felt that kind of inhibited me being myself. And this was in the most earliest time when I came out, when I was, I think, 18, 19 or something. But over a period of time, I think I have re-established my connection with faith and religion, and understood it's a tool for us and we are not its in a way, you know.
I think that was a very interesting, anecdote which you have shared, that faith is never a tool to kind of guide us, but more of a tool to align with the same kind of an answer, as well as your experience. I just wanted to understand that your drag is something extraordinary, and to people who are listeners as well, please do go ahead and check out Jish's drag. They have a wonderful profile in Instagram, as well as they're all over the internet space as well. So my question to you, Jish, is how did your journey into drag begin, and did your faith play a role in shaping your drag persona?
Journey drag came from the idea of being able to be whoever I want to be, and drag kind of became that medium, celebrate and showcase all my skills and my talent, and that's been the most fun aspect even now, which makes me happy of what I do at the moment. Coming to faith, I don't think it had a major role in the initial space, because I felt, again, if you talk about faith, and the faith that I come from, Islam, has a very specific ideology towards queerness, and in terms of, a lot, anything to do in terms of music, in terms of performance. And though there is Sufism in hiding that segment of Islam is beyond, because in Sufism, love is transcending gender and sexuality. You can have immense love for your guru and sing and dance for your guru, like know about Mir Khusro's, like the song written by the chela for them to be happy. So I think that exists in Islam in some way or form, but it's never explored through a queer space and queer eye. I think now we are doing that, and there are books about it, which is very interesting, and that kind of opened my eyes to kind of re-establish my connection with my faith. And now I kind of intermingle a bit of it. I've not really delved into it because I was so averse from where I came from, because just it made me hate myself more. But over a period of time, I think it has opened me a different perspective of how faith can be a part of you as well, which I had run away for the longest of time.
Great. I think that's a very interesting point of view, especially with Sufism. And I think one of the other things which I also wanted to kind of check with you is you create a kind of form of extraterrestrial or something which is avant-garde in so nature, but also something which is not very humanish. And the idea of creating beyond the idea of a specific itself is a way of connecting the idea of special, and some or the other way what I find is this beautiful analogy of how you elevate become the idea of beyond realms of, and try to kind of take people who are watching from one space to another, and you're
Amazing. Go on.
so the next question which I had is, have you ever experienced conflict with your faith and your drag artistry? And if so, can you tell me, like, can you help us with some ways to it?
Always evolved over the years. I remember the moment a trans in the age of C, and her name was Barkha. She lived in Naupada, Mumbai, at Bandra. This trans, again, religion and faith, awareness, so complex in how people see it. But this woman was kids how to read Quran, and the entire neighborhood to call her, and that just opened my eyes to a way you can really, if you embrace yourself and you embrace who you are, it embraces you. That kind of really pulled me out of this rut. And I think that's what we need is, if you something that's yours, no one can snatch it away. And if Allah is Allah will be, in no one saying he's not a, it's not in their control. It's the supreme being. He's there within you. He's not there within you. You don't exist. Right? That's the ideology. And I think, again, I also practice, which is a very spiritual side of understanding the universe and stuff. And I think that also is towards, if we are made of energy, God, and everything is made of energy, I think there's no debate that it be a hindrance. It should be help for us, right? That's how I see it.
Way of how did you say that Allah is in everywhere. There's also something which is called as the divine spark. This is something which Gen Z language of talking about the spirit of how you are exist because there's a divine spark, and you just take it off, you are just a mannequin, which is not even. So I think this kind of sums up the entire experience which you have shared. Now you already talked about how Sufism is affirming, especially with gender and sexuality, some aspects of that. What I wanted to understand is, like, was there any space, was there any time when you felt that you were connected or you were elevated, and what might have caused that? I'm kind of coming to this question. I'll give you a little bit. Drag or the idea of cross-dresser part as a way to start one of the terminologies, but in emasculate the ultimate surrender to the god, and this common space is happening in India. And like, for example, if we talk about the Saki Beki, which happens in the north, whereas there is this festival in Telangana, which is done by a tribal Muslim choir. It's called as Pirla Pandaga. Pirla Pandaga, Bakrid, but it's celebrated where men are dressed up in a female. There's a bonfire. People kind of do rounds of that and dance, and at the end of it, they cut a sacrifice and kind of surrender. So here, the practice of dressing up is something which has also been aligned with the idea of faith. So having said that, times as a drag artist as well, when we dress up ourselves, we are in our own reality of how we are. So were there any instances where you felt you are spirit while you are in drag or while you are in your own?
In all ways, I think the idea to be on stage or just perform anywhere, you need to be connected to the source. If you're not, it doesn't exist, then you don't exist then, right? And as we said earlier as well, I think to me, every time when I'm on stage, and I do obnoxious acts as well, gory acts. Nature is gore. Faith is gore. There are wars being fought on faith, and everything in that sense. So I personally have always felt connected. And again, when I think about, as we were talking about Sufism, if you listen to Qawwalis, the way they speak about specific, the way the love is shown is always feminine, right? If you listen to Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan's Qawwalis, written by a lot of geniuses of that era, Persian and stuff, they always refer to themselves while singing as a woman in so many ways. Teri Diwani, and they speak about beauty of the person. So it's always so, like, though gendered, but it's so beyond the gender restriction that we live in, and that always is something that I relate to when I'm on, and as you mentioned that I do these extraterrestrial characters. My also the idea of going into that direction was to kind of be beyond the set binary, and also be able to show that you can exist in the realm without conforming to what exists in the realm. So that I hope I answered your question. I don't know.
Yes, I think that was very wonderfully, and thank you so much for sharing that. I will now talk like a cisgender heterosexual
Go on,
person.
sis.
Can you tell me, are there any challenges or criticisms which you faced as a part of aligning or shoot while being a drag artist or while being a queer person? And if those were some of the challenges which you would like to share with the audience, and also help us in giving us some ideas like why exactly there is this conflict, or why exactly there is the I would say criticism or challenge which we face when we align our faith or when we open up about our faith.
So, I'll tell you something very honestly. When I was starting off, I think we spoke about it offline. Zishan was doing my social a lot of, and as back then as an artist, I work who I am and where I came from and all of that. And so I felt the need, Zishan, I made so that my work doesn't get dissected over time. It's the people. Why I'm putting my, because people who are being evil, right? So now, earlier it was a hindrance. Now it's a power. It's when I come from, where my roots lie, and now my perception has entirely changed. And what was the other question that you asked?
That was the basis.
Yeah.
Challenge.
I mean, even now, I feel there was this video which went really crazy and viral a while ago. It was in Dadar and doing this thing, and it got crazy attention. But the majority of it, because there was this very video where there's a Bora Muslim guy, skull cap and pie, and that opened up a conversation about how Hindus and Muslims are coming together and reuniting to fight homosexuality, which is so sad. But it's also a thing that till you don't stand up. When I was growing up as a Muslim homosexual, I had no one that I could relate to. So I have for so many others who are coming up. A world exists where you can still celebrate where you come from and be who you are, and that's not just it was for me, but I'm sure for so many queer Muslims that do not have that space.
Indeed, I think as we are talking about it, this is a very common situation where kind of becomes all faith kind of comes together to kind of counter queerness or to kind of counter gender performance. One of the things which I realize is like they're coming out of fear.
Absolutely.
Having said that, if I think this wonderfully something which was kept by just kind of recollecting Abhida Praveen's word, like which says it as a part of a Kavali, which is about Chap Tilak, this wonderful where she says, not even a pandit,
Yeah.
a Maulvi, and an astrologer can define how exactly you look like. I have asked all of them,
Yeah.
but none of them could define you or how you are kind of. And I think somewhere or the other way, if somebody can't define how God is the supreme, nobody can define the gender as well. So I think when I see my God, or when the idea of spiritual being who is on all of us, that person just like me or has a part of, and this elevated universe part of you is what the idea of togetherness is. Like if all of us are thinking same direction, saying that okay, you have the same divine spark, I have the same divine spark, let's come together. So that's when the idea of new society will kind of develop, and faith also helps us in as you said, I haven't grown up with seeing any Muslim boy who is queer, and when we see icons like you who would kind of come ahead and spoke outspokenly about it, there would be a child who would be listening to this, or there would be a child who would be knowing you and following you, who would feel affirmed, and that would help not only to develop the entire society to be more friendly, but also use it as a way to kind of pass a happier message across the world. So yeah, that is something which you have done a fantabulous job. And last question, if you have one advice, especially for people who would like to align their faith with, and if you have one advice, because again it's interfaith conversation, trying to understand how interfaith as an ideology can in the queer community and create a space where we don't shut or suppress the idea of talking about religion or faith, but we have a very open conversation and coexist about each and every belief system and understand, give that space openness for people to accept or adapt to certain kind of ideology. So what is that one message you give it to
I mean, before the message, I would just say something that I learned somewhere mid post teen. Allah, we call him because there is no gender reference in Arabic per se. It's genderless, right? So Allah is not masculine nor feminine. We call him he is just because we are so used to the binary, but it's a formless source of energy, right? If you talk about Hinduism, though we have idols which are defined, but the energy is still genderless that comes, right? Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. All the main energies are genderless. The forms been given just to be able to realize. Even if you talk about God itself in Christianity, there is, it's genderless. The energy remains genderless across the like all faiths. So, I mean, once you remove these barriers put by the patriarchal society or these godmen that have created a business of it, it is liberating to experience faith, experience religion, experience supreme being that exists not just around us but within us, right? And I think what I would like to give back, what was the question again, my love? My message would be, I don't think so to run away from where you come from. I think you need to recognize that, realize that, celebrate that. The more you run away from it, the more further you're gonna go from. And I think that's not something that you should do. Really, that's what I'd say.
Thank you so much, Jeez. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and thank you so much for being my first guest. I'm super excited for this, and I think this would help us in passing or striving the conversations about faith. And I think this series is again specific to drag performers and their faith ideologies, which they kind of connect with.
Before we cut down, because it's the first episode, and me being a drag bitch, I want to ask you, what is your ideology towards faith, and what do you mean by it with yourself and religion and the existing space that you're in? Please.
So this is a very interesting question. I thought I would make an episode of this separately,
Sorry
but
about
I will
that.
I will answer this as well. So
Maybe you can cut this out and just talk to me.
so I think I believe in like I'm born in a Hindu family. Again, I'm coming from an upper caste person. I'm born in upper caste. Having said that, since childhood I was a very agnostic. At any point in something is preached, I would kind of question back. I would ask, what is the relation, or what will it do to me as a person? Eventually, what happens is like somewhere or the other way, the practice of religion was still there, like still being imbibed into my blood and my space, which is around, because of the parenting or because of the schooling or whatever it is. I found a specific way of connecting with the idea of religion itself, and that was music. And somewhere or the other way, it's always my connectivity. I get lost when I'm listening to certain things in its own nature, and which helped me to explore the ideas of religion itself. Like, I'm somebody who practices, the idea of learning and rehearsing or kind of singing, ritual songs, which are a part of all of us rituals. And I believe my faith is more like a patheist. I believe in every existence of every god which people have a belief on. Having said that, I'm also an agnostic. When I apply it to myself, I question back, okay, how much can I apply it? So that is my relationship. And I'm also trying to look out with this project to see how I can develop a society which is, or at least my immediate circle of people, as interfaith, or thrive the idea of interfaith, which is basically like acknowledging the multiple spaces or faiths which we have in our society, and also implying that, trying to experience every faith ideologies, and take a part of it. Like, I think that our body is about, and we just take things from each other practices. So I believe in that. And somewhere or the other way, I was a bit, off guarded when I came out, and then I never spoke about my religious upbringing. Having said that, when I'm trying to connect with reading religion or kind of listening religion, as I did, with when I was having a conversation with you, I realized that they are all so much interconnected. And I find when I'm listening to MS Subbalakshmi Suprabhatam versus Abhida Praveens, a kalam or any kind of Sufi poetry, or if I'm listening to Beyonce singing "When Jesus Say Yes, Nobody Can Say No." So anything of that, I try to elevate myself. I feel connected. So I think I kind of use the medium to connect with it as music. Having said that, interfaithly, I kind of try to dive in and analyze the practice which I'm still there, which has been imbibed into my family as a Hindu. I don't want to. I usually don't like to kind of call myself as a Hindu, though I'm born in that. I call that I'm believer of all faith. And also, it's important when we are doing something of a faith based, especially artists. So what one has to do is an artist can't make art if they are kind of unilaterally about a certain kind of an ideology of faith, because artists should be, if I not for a better word, hosts, where they have to recheck and realign their own selves with the multiple ideas of faith, because by the end of it, for an artist, the ultimate supreme is their art. And at any point in time, we could say that, okay, my art is just material, and then I don't care about it. But by the end of it, that is our ultimate goal. Eating and putting or vomiting art is the ultimate, and that itself becomes our god. So I think when this thing happens, when you are kind of creating something, when you are basically the mother of a certain, it's really important for us to, mother should not judge, or mother should not stick to us. Having said that, we are living in a space where there's still propaganda. But we have to always cross check or kind of, and I think because I'm which was which was diverse, and I had space to reflect, and music itself is diverse, it helped me in rechecking my points of view, and kindling the idea of how I see perspective. Some for a while in my childhood, I was also into the practice of faith, which was called as Sarvadharma, which is basically followed by, now it's saints, but saints as in Babas. But initially there was this small cult like Oso is one, and then we used to have something like Sai Baba is one. So I was into one of that aspects of it. So which was an initial grudge, but eventually when it turned out to be my belief system, which I will credit the music rather than that practice. I think that is how myself.
Wow, that's amazing. You had your moment about this topic.
So with that note, thank you so much, Zeesh, for being with me. And my child is right over here to kind of interrupt this conversation.
We love that.
And I will see you again with my next podcast. Till then, thank you so much and have a great day.